Brandon Petro,
happy,
affectionately loves on his mother Renee, as he did in much happier times.
Let's take a picture. 1, 2, smile, smile.
But weeks after this video was taken, these lives would be forever changed, just not the way they'd hoped for.
This is us. We're on the medevac now.
The Florida family made the decision to transfer care for Brandon's complex medical needs to Cumberland Hospital in New Kent County. They'd arrive at the Children and Adolescent Facility September 6, 2017, unable to get into the acute unit Renee says was promised to them.
Brandon's very complex and he needs 24/7 care. He said, oh, all of our units have 24/7 care. He will be just fine.
Brandon, who suffers from a seizure disorder and other medical issues, got settled into a room on the neurology unit.
Brandon looked over to me and said, "Mom, don't leave me."
Those would be the last words this mother would ever hear her son speak. Despite being discouraged from visiting for a couple weeks to allow Brandon to get acclimated, Renee says she'd return days later.
And that was his fall, which is infected.
To find her son injured.
Nobody could tell me how he fell.
Renee says the incident was not documented in his chart, nor was she notified.
I mean, yeah, he couldn't stand up. His room was filthy. It was disgusting. I found him food in his mouth, not bathed, didn't shave him, and there was always excuses.
And while she says his health was rapidly declining, her concerns were growing.
I left Cumberland and I called TRICARE and I told them something's not right, okay? I'm gonna initiate Brandon's release. We're gonna put an alert and start an investigation.
In the meantime, Brandon was moved to the acute unit, but Renee had no intentions of leaving him there.
When I called Cumberland Hospital, 2 nurses told me that if I don't get my son out of the hospital, he was gonna die. They said, get your son out as soon as possible.
That would happen the evening of September 22, 2017, when Renee arrived at Cumberland unannounced.
Brandon was unresponsive. When I walked into Brandon's room, he was seizing and nobody was with him. He had a fever. He wasn't attended to. He was not responding to me. I tried to wake him up. He did not open his eyes. He lost so much weight. I demanded that they release him, and they did.
Brandon was rushed by ambulance to VCU Medical Center, where he was examined by a child protection team.
He was unresponsive. He had bruises all over his body. He wasn't right medically.
Multiple bruises and an abrasion were noted in his chart, raising the suspicion, it says, for physical abuse. The assessment also determined Brandon was malnourished and emaciated, with a significant weight loss of more than 10%. Also documented a concerning visit at VCU from Cumberland's medical director, Dr. Daniel Davidow.
I am positively sure on my life that they hurt my son. I know it. So much so that Dr. Davidow decided to make a visit to the hospital when he couldn't get information about Brandon, because the hospital wouldn't give him any information because he's no longer a patient at Cumberland.
Renee said that would happen 4 days after Brandon's abrupt release from the New Kent facility in the halls of VCU Medical Center's Pediatric Intensive Care Unit.
He's prying and looking into the rooms, trying to find where Brandon's room is. And I thought to myself, this has gotta be something. This is not happening. So I said, what are you doing here? He said, I've been trying to figure out a way to get a hold of you. I wanted to see how my poor little Brandon is.
Police reports show it was the first of 2 unwelcome visits in a matter of days from Cumberland's medical director, Dr. Daniel Davidow. Before it says he was escorted out by security and revoked of his privileges at VCU Medical Center. But before that would happen, Renee was able to reach for her cell phone and hit record. She'd capture the next hour conversation with Davidow at her son Brandon's bedside.
What they believe is that he was malnourished and starved. Let me explain something to you, Dr. Davidow.
Sure.
I would do anything for my son.
Absolutely.
Why I was never notified that Brandon fell, and why I was never notified that Brandon was significantly deteriorating is beyond me. What I can tell you is there are people in the facility that were telling me a lot of things, okay? And either you are truly a compassionate doctor and you want to find out what's going on inside your facility, or B, you're covering up something, all right? But let me make myself clear. You're messing with the wrong mom.
Just find out
Okay.
what's going on in my facility.
Okay, something's not right.
The sentiment from numerous parents who have reached out to CBS 6 over the past few months. Every file represents another patient and another claim of abuse at Cumberland.
I got fired for what? You know, because I won't sit back and allow kids to get abused, neglected, or exploited.
The families came forward after our investigative report in October revealed the hospital that points out it is in good standing with licensing and regulatory authorities was cited for non-compliance when it came to notifying the state of 24 serious alleged incidents.
Everybody's coming out of the woodwork.
Like Brandon Petro, 12-year-old Caden Hyde left Cumberland bruised and battling infections. His parents transferred him to Fort Belvoir Community Hospital, which documented his, quote, injuries sustained at a treatment facility. An investigation by the New Kent Department of Social Services later found that Caden had been the victim of physical neglect and abuse. 11-year-old Sarah Weideman also was transferred out of Cumberland in serious condition. A child protection team at Penn State Hershey Medical Center noted a high fever of 105, multiple bruises, a confirmed infection, and suspected physical child abuse from referring facility. And Cumberland staff member Don Juan Cooper was terminated. An investigation by the New Kent Department of Social Services found he was responsible for physical abuse, child abuse, or neglect. Investigators say Cooper caused 15-year-old patient Nairi Bowden to have a seizure after putting him in multiple physical holds that choked him with his own arm. An investigation by Bowden's insurance company determined he was not examined after the incident and his mother was not notified. Her son would call her the next day to inform her, quote, that he had almost died the night before. Universal Health Services, which owns Cumberland, offered to discuss compensation, explaining they remained unhappy about Nairi's experience at Cumberland. Under the Freedom of Information Act, the Virginia State Police confirmed to CBS 6 it has been investigating criminal child abuse and neglect of patients at the hospital since October 17, 2017, but declined to release the 250 pages of documents and information related to the open investigation.
I'm going to make sure that those who made my son suffer and those who've made all of those children suffer, pay.
Pay
Can we take a picture, me and you together?
for what this mother says was taken in a flash
1, 2, smile, smile.
and has never been the same. Brandon to this day hasn't uttered a word.
The worst thing that we ever did in our lives was come to Cumberland Hospital. If I could, whatever, I mean, I wish I could take it back.